Hello, hello, everyone, as we get to welcome each one of you to an amazing session here. Hello, welcome, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever everyone may be. It is such a pleasure to be here today, and we are just getting more and more people coming in. I absolutely love it. This is really great. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I'm pulling up the slides now. It's going to be really exciting. It's just really great to be here with each of you. And this is my favorite part when I just see more and more people starting to come in. It is such a pleasure. But while we keep going and more people are popping in, my name is Armando Bernal. I'm a board certified behavior analyst. I'm also diagnosed with autism. And so I use my diagnosis in order to better support individuals that may need that kind of support. I work on a day-to-day basis with behaviors, communication, hitting, kicking, biting, life skills, you name it. My company that I work with is able to do all of these things. In addition, I work with Michelle through this Champion for Our Children program, and it has been such a joy to be a part of this now for going on 2 years, which is really, really phenomenal. With that being said, as we welcome people, I'll just give everyone just a few more minutes to pop in, and I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen here. Thank you, everyone, for being with me today. So let me go ahead and pull this up for y'all. Perfect. All right, looks like everyone's going to be able to see this, no problem. I'll go ahead and do this. This is the most, it is like sassy. Yeah, exactly. She has sass right here, and it's so sassy. I love it. This is Michelle's daughter, Juliana, who you will learn more about, as well as learn a little bit more about us when we get going. So let me go ahead and share my screen. I think we're good to go. So I'll go ahead and start this slideshow. So very cool. So this is going to be a guide to reducing aggressive and problem behavior. And with me tonight is the lovely Jen, who will be posting any kind of link that we have in order to get you signed up for any kind of support or any kind of advice that you may need. At the end of this presentation, we'll be doing a raffle for a 30-minute session with myself or any other of the BCBAs, as well as answering any questions you may have about behavior, about aggression, about problem behavior, anything like that. We're more than happy to cover. But more importantly, right, we have to discuss, why we're here, what are we going to be doing? We'll go over a brief introduction. You'll be able to learn more about our story, and then we'll be able to discuss there, right? We'll be able to discuss aggression, problem behavior, anything like that to make sure that we're all on the same page here, as well as that Q&A, as I mentioned. So why are we here, though? We want to stop throwing endless tantrums. We want to stop the hitting, stop the biting, pinching, all of these things that are, causing a child to get kicked out of daycare, causing a child to not be able to interact appropriately with their peers, right? Those that are wanting to have friends, but are just not able to do so because they're not able to provide that kind of same communication that others make, right? We want to end this worry about children's safety, about making sure that they're safe, that others are safe, all of these different things, and really provide some reassurance that we're able to be good parents, that we're able to support these children much like any other child would be able to, right? We want to stop feeling like people are judging because we have a child with problem behavior, right? If anyone in this area has had a child go into a grocery store and just throw a full-blown tantrum at a zoo, grocery store, wherever it may be, and just feel this embarrassment of like, oh my gosh, my child is doing all of this, everyone's watching, everyone is doing so many things, and I just don't know how to handle this kind of situation. All of this is so significant because it allows us to learn how to interact when these children are having these kind of aggressive behaviors in front of so many people. But we also try and stop feeling the helplessness that comes with that, right? Stop feeling like we're not able to stop these behaviors from happening, right? And understand that there is a way of managing these behaviors and making sure that this child feels like they have the support of their family. Oh my goodness, Jen. So it looks like this video no longer exists, apparently. So let me try and pull up another one for you. It just tells a little bit more about our story here that we can tell. Oh my goodness, someone is from Trinidad. I absolutely love that. So let me pull up one of our older links here, and you can just learn a little bit more about Michelle as well. Let's see here. So give me just 1 second, you guys. And if I can't find it, it's no big deal. We can play it at the end as well. And that could be pretty helpful. And Jen, if there's an issue, you can just find it as well, and we can play it later. So just give me 1 second, you guys. But that's what we're here for, right? We want to make sure that you get the support that we're needing, that you're getting this ability to understand that child's perspective, that we're getting to understand why are they hitting in the first place, and better understanding what needs to occur. So it's taken a little bit too long for me to find this video. It's not a big deal. We can keep going, right? And Jen, if you can find it, super great as well, and we can keep going in that aspect. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so everyone can understand why we are here. We're here because of the fact that we are wanting to solve 3 issues. Jen, you found it?
Yes, it's. Can you try to play it again? I just
Okay, let me. Okay, perfect. Let's see here. Let me do the slideshow. Maybe.
I remember when I got pregnant with my daughter, I felt so grateful and so blessed. You know, my life up to that point had been pretty rocky. I'd had a lot of bumps and bruises along the way, and I thought that I was trying to pull him, and God was blessing me with this beautiful gift of a child. And I just, yes, and finally something was going my way. And I had all of these dreams and expectations for her. I thought of all the things that I thought she was going to do. I went to the first birthday, I started relationship with you. Some successful and spare, even solid. She just, you know, she looked really good. And I just remember her health plans overnight are very quickly. Like for me at this time, she was a super happy baby, but crying and just frustrated all the time. I remember saying to my mom, one of these things was really good. But I think that's the first time I'm not ready to find that something could be done, even though the sensations are there. I think diagnosed right away. They said that she was too young for a diagnosis. I said that I was diagnosed with what? You know, I just had no idea what they were talking about. And then they said, we'll come back in if you're not seeing progress. And so, okay, and a couple of months later, I'm watching the speech therapist play and I'm not seeing any progress, and she was getting years. And it was for a 2-year visit. And the doctor said that she was fine if she wasn't 20 years pregnant. And that was probably just the knife in my heart. At that point, I really couldn't deny it. It's something that, so I called the county and she's diagnosed on the spectrum. And I remember that day, it's most days I think the same he's my darkest out. Like, this week, as a woman, is just telling me the hardest times that I ever, and I remember this thing. So, one of the things that happy with God, so thankful, it's makes it peace. I'm not stuck, and nothing is beautiful books that I do. And for a while there, I struggled to figure out what this meant to people in general. I was just kind of her. All these dreams I had for her future were just completely shattered. I was completely tired. What's going to happen next? And I think just hopeful to just complete blank when I thought about the future. One night I was thinking, and I'm going to die. And I'm just going to care for her. And something about that thought just snapped me out of my depression and I'm like, so this time we have to work here, that when she was born, I was going to be so smaller I could give her. And that promise hasn't changed. In fact, she only really had enough less. She liked me in the morning. And I don't know at the time that the kids were and what she those changes, that mindset shift what he was going to do. Like, I wanted to know that I put myself in the mirror to say, I'm still doing everything for myself to make her the best possible. And if the answer was yes, and that was a good day, and I wanted to be saying yes, 100%. And no matter where the cards fell, I knew I could leave the spirit saying I gave her everything I had, no regrets. And so navigated this world with her and walked away that day and I really just grabbed me by the system. Special education, asked us to be a teacher. I don't know any that I did that for her. And she special education is one of the people. Where she is only 3 years old. She's in the second grade class in Jeddah School. Yes, grade class with typical years. She speaks beautiful for the personality. She has conversation skills. She's still going to get into work, but for the most part, her future went from black to now disabilities. And I noted that for the way. And I really took the ground work and started to take it. I can't say that if you do that for everything, the right things of this type of having done, putting myself in the mirror, I have to something saying, oh, there's everything for her today. I have no regrets. The whole if one of her eyes was all the perfect thing that we only had this children because that's versions of ourselves to raise these children. I've helped out hundreds of mothers, coached them one-on-one to do the same things I did, to help them to be strong, to help them to their plans, they receive constant progress, this is what I want to do. I want to give you the chance to turn me out with them. I want to give you the opportunity to work child that time.
And really, you know, again and again, I see these videos, and that's what it's really about, right? It's about going from an area that is your stock, right? That you don't know where your child's going to go. You don't know what's going to happen. You get this diagnosis because initially you have all these big dreams for your child, and they're going to be astronauts and physicians and all of these other areas. And then this diagnosis can just crush a family and not know where to take their child from here, right? And not know where to go. But the issue with that is that if we start believing that our child is not capable of doing things on their own, then they definitely won't accomplish those things. They need your support in order to accomplish those things, right? So, and that's something that happened with my mother. When I was diagnosed with autism, my mother was told that I might as well learn sign language because I was never going to be able to speak. And that was the case. I wouldn't be able to be here today, and I wouldn't be speaking right now to each of you. So the big three things that we talk to each of you about is going to be potty training, communication, and aggressive and problem behavior at 0 or as close to 0 as we can, so they can sit and attend, right? I tell parents all the time that some things that I'm not able to have a child be able to do on their own, that I can't make them do, is going to be communicate and handle these kind of aggressive behaviors. They have to be able to regulate themselves in order to manage the aggression when it comes, and being able to understand how to determine when are they feeling overwhelmed and knowing how to handle that more appropriately, right? These aggressive behaviors can be very disruptive, can cause a decrease in the quality of life because it stops this child from being able to go to a daycare, being able to go into a public school and have success, make friends, not be considered a kid to be fearful of and have concerns for, right? So when working with these families, we consider it being like a member of the bomb squad, right? Being able to deal with these blow-ups before they happen. So that way we don't get hit, kick, bit. We don't get scars. We don't get these kind of issues that come up. And just like that same kind of mentality, we want to approach and inspect what is going on with this behavior. Why is this child doing this behavior? And then learn how to disarm, learn how to structurally dismantle this behavior before it gets worse, right? Sometimes I work with these parents that I have at my company, and they say that, well, my child started throwing a tantrum, and so I started trying to calm him down. I started trying to tell him to do this or be able to speak in this way. And I mentioned to them, let's put you in his shoes, right? And if you were upset and somebody started telling you to calm down or that it's going to be okay or things like that, how would you feel? Likely you would probably be even more upset, right? And so with that, we want to make sure that you're providing appropriate feedback and appropriate support to your child in the middle of this, right? So this is just a little bit of a disclaimer that the information and all information in this workshop are not intended to serve as a substitute for consultation with medical or behavioral professionals, right? It's intended for it to better support any kind of help that you need in the moment and hopefully provide some kind of answer to any troubles you may have, right? Only qualified professionals are able to know exactly what is going to work with your child. Even myself, as a board certified behavior analyst that I am and is recommended, it's important for me to tell you that I am basing my decisions on the information that you provide to me when we get to the question and answer, right? I'm only as good as the information that is being given to me or the observations I'm able to make in order to make sure that no danger can come to that child, right? So just keeping that in mind. So step one is going to be to slowly approach your beliefs around that problem behavior. I am from an Hispanic background where mental health was not discussed. My father did not discuss my mental diagnosis. He didn't believe in it. But because of that, I demonstrated more problem behaviors than I probably should have. And so it's very significant when we're working with behavior to have an open mind and to understand that there is a certain way of communicating concerns, right? And there is a certain way of looking at behaviors. And rather than looking at a behavior as something that a child is doing to be malicious or something that a child is wanting to do just for the fun of things, right? it's important to understand that behavior in of itself is communication. It is inappropriate communication, but it is still communication nonetheless. It is the ability for a child who may be nonverbal, not speaking, not able to provide their wants and needs effectively, to let you know what they're wanting and to let you know that this is a way that works for them. By no means is this an appropriate way of communicating those needs, but it is a way that allows them to let you know what they're wanting, right? So if I spoke a different language to you and I received feedback from each of you that you were able to speak back to me in that language, then I would continue to communicate in that way. But if I started communicating in Mandarin, Spanish, whatever it is, and you did not respond to me, I then learn that that language is an inappropriate way for me to communicate with you because you just don't understand it. The same way with behavior is very significant because it allows the child to understand that, oh, if I am hitting or kicking and my mother then responds back to me in some form or way, even if it is to tell me to stop, that tells me that this is an appropriate way of communicating my needs because she is responding to me. I had a 3-year-old patient who his mother told me that he says no, which means no, and no, which means that he wants more. And that may make sense for the parent, but as a stranger, I'm not going to know the difference there. But if she did not understand him when he said no, like that with the sound, he would get very upset and he would hit himself and hit others. And so her response to that was to hug him. But that in of itself allows the parent or allows the child to think that this is an okay way of communicating because he's getting some form of hug, physical touch, whatever it may be. And so when we're moving through this aspect, right, slowly approach it through the beliefs around the problem behavior. That it's not because this child is wanting to act this way, but instead it's much more about them communicating their wants and needs. And this seems to be the way that works. So why would they not continue, right? But in order to reduce these kind of aggressive behaviors, there are 2 most frequently asked questions here, right? Is why is my child hurting themselves? Why are they hurting me? Why are they hurting others? Why does my child have a meltdown or a tantrum here? Okay. I want to understand that the difference here is that a meltdown and a tantrum are 2 very different things. A meltdown is this sensation of not being able to manage the sensory needs that a child may present. And a tantrum is I'm not getting my way. And so I'm going to do everything I possibly can to tell you that I'm not getting my way and I am upset about it, right? Whereas the question of why is my child hurting themselves and others is because of the fact that they are communicating some need at the time that works for them. And that's how we try to resolve this, right? So as a toddler, neurotypical children, they go through these stages. You see little small children and babies hit their head or do other things, right? But for children with autism, it happens more often than it does for a baby or a toddler. And it can happen when they're 9 years old, 15 years old. It doesn't really matter. I had a 20-year-old that was also aggressive at that time, right? But around 1 to 2, these behaviors start to subside, typically with neurotypical children, right? Is that they realize that, oh, I can communicate my needs in an effective way. But in actuality, in this kind of situation, they're realizing that that doesn't correlate with what I'm wanting. They realize that head hitting will continue to get them what they want. So why would they stop if it's already working for them, right? So understanding that this is an unconscious decision here, right? A majority of the time, the children are not hitting just for the fun of it. They are actively trying to tell you their wants and needs. And where I come in as a board certified behavior analyst is have the parents understand that there is a better way of communicating these needs, that by no means am I accepting the fact that they are communicating through aggression. And instead, looking at different ways that this child would be able to present a more effective way of communicating their wants and needs. So reducing aggression and this problem behavior is one of the big 3s, right? Is one of these things that we're hoping to have this child unlearn, that they're hoping to have some kind of level of independence, right? But if we don't see in our children is to make this monumental step in the autism journey, it will only continue to be a detriment to themselves. Is that my job as a board certified behavior analyst is to fill this gap, is to fill this need of things that this child is lacking to get them back with their newer typical peers. But what happens though is that aggression starts off small, right? It's a flick, it's a small punch, things like that, and people look the other way because it's a small child and they think it's, oh, it's so cute, he's using his little fist to do this, right? Or they may be at a daycare, and the daycare individuals tell you, hey, your child got really upset when we wanted to do art today, so we didn't really worry about it, and we just told him to go play, that he didn't have to go and do art, right? Well, that's all well and good. We think, okay, it's just art, it's just arts and crafts, like noodles, whatever. But the second that we start to accept that a child can tantrum in order to tell us that they are not wanting to do something, or that they get aggressive to tell us that they're not wanting to do something, that child then learns that I can use this in other areas. For example, okay, I don't want to do art and I was going to start punching people. They made me do art. So that worked out great. What if I decided to punch people to get out of math? Well, it worked for art, so it should work for math. Or it worked for art, so it should work for me to not play with other people. And now we start having a bigger problem that was not addressed when they were younger. And now this kid is getting harder and harder to manage. And then eventually we lose all control. So it's very significant for us to do what we can in order to have this child understand that there is a better way of communicating other than aggressing, other than providing self-injurious behavior, right? There's something that happens to us mentally here, that when this behavior continues, it can keep us in this negative mental space, right? And I've seen it because in my company, Autism International, we work with children of all ages here. We work from 18 months to 18 years old to 20 years old, all of these areas. And I see a lot of hope in the smaller children, unfortunately, where a parent is going to say, hey, I really think my child is able to do really great things, all of these, amazing things. But when they get to be 15, 17 years old, and they have never had applied behavior analysis therapy, they've never had support, they never had that kind of support system, then we start getting into the parent saying, well, this is pointless. Well, do the best you can. I don't think anything's going to work. So, whatever, we can try it, I guess. And this negative headspace is what then impacts their children and has them believe, well, if my mom doesn't believe in me, why should I believe in myself? Well, my dad doesn't believe in me. Why should I try and start believing in myself, right? So it then begins worse and worse. It's when you start becoming this fireman that's putting out fires, and these little fires start to grow, right? But if you are able to become this bomb squad boss, right, where we're able to disarm these behaviors from happening, this kind of negative mental headspace that we were just talking about starts to dwindle away, because it allows us to understand that there is a better way of looking at things. So there is a better way of managing these kind of behaviors, right? And that's typically why children that I start to see start coming to me for therapy, because they started showing aggression, that they started showing all of these different behaviors that have these children be kind of isolated or a pariah in their school system. I have another child that is, how old is she? She's 9 years old, and we were going to start serving her for therapy. And the parents said, no, we want to try public school full time. They said it shouldn't be an issue at all. So we're going to go ahead. And we said, okay, that's no problem at all. Well, 3-4 months down later, we hear from them again, and they say, oh my gosh, can you please take us? Things are just really bad at the school. She gets kicked out of class all the time. She's not able to manage her behaviors. We don't know what to do, right? And this could have been easily resolved earlier on, because when I first met this patient, she was fine. She was like maybe pushing a little bit, and she was tickling and all of these things, right? But because now that this child has gone a couple of months of learning that I can hit to get out of work, this child is going to be significantly harder to manage because of the fact that we have to deal with these behaviors, and she's older, right? So it's always important to handle it when they're earlier. But studies show that 68% of children and teenagers of autism have been aggressive to a caregiver. 49% have been aggressive to someone else at some point, right? More than half of the youth studies were currently having mild to severe or aggressive behavior. Now, severe and mild are a bit subjective here, right? Mild is maybe pushing, refusing, taking things away. That could be very mild, right? And we're like, oh, it's no big deal. He just grabbed it once, right? But that, again, we have to keep in mind, can lead to more severe behaviors, can lead to the punches, the hitting, the kicking, the biting, things that if we are not careful, especially when these kids get older, to 15, 17, 20 years old, that can lead to it being called assault. That could be leading them into a jail cell, right? So we want to manage it again when they're younger because they're easier to manage anyway because they're small, but also because it teaches them appropriate ways of interacting so they don't get in trouble with police later, right? Excessive tantruming and meltdowns are typically linked to autism. Again, not because of some kind of aggression here, but because of the fact that behaviorally, these kind of actions are demonstrated as being a communication ability. It allows the children to know how to talk to others, and this works for them. So why wouldn't they continue to do it, right? But in this coaching program, we work with all ages, nonverbal children, 2 years old and up to teenagers, right? That means that the same advice that I would give for a 2-4-year-old, we would then individualize it for those parents with a 15 or a 17-year-old. We want to try and support them as much as possible. We've been able to reduce aggressive or problem behavior. These things are not issues for us because that is things that we see on a day-to-day basis, right? I do this business with Michelle. I work with her just for the fun of it. Excuse me, you guys, just for the fun of it, because of the fact that I know that there are so many parents that are needing support. On my actual like daytime hours, I have a company where I work specifically with children that have aggressive and problem behavior all day long, right? We work on decreasing these meltdowns. We improve quality of life. We're here to support you as that family here. We are able to do these things really in a matter of weeks, right? So long as we're able to have a partnership, so long as we're able to have communication with you as that parent, and you're able to ask the questions that you want, really, and take that advice and run with it, right? So if that's the case, this is something that could be for you, right? This is something that we would be able to manage and better support you through, because these things that feel like it's hopeless, that it just cannot be resolved, I'm here to tell you it is. It is able to be resolved, right? This is the single most important thing you need to know, though, is that getting out our autistic children reduce their behaviors starts with our belief in them, right? If we believe that the child is able to overcome any kind of problem that we are presenting, right? Any kind of issue that they may have, and we believe that they can resolve it, they definitely will. It starts first with the parents knowing that the child is capable. It starts with them also understanding that they themselves are capable. What? It's understanding that that child is able to accomplish anything they set their mind to, despite whatever a doctor may say, despite whatever a professional may say. Your child is capable of anything they put their mind to, right? So this number one reason of stopping your child from decreasing problem behavior are your thoughts about it. That is the way we initially do this, right? Our thoughts on how we resolve this are going to be what allows us to continue to better serve this community, better serve your family, better serve your child, and making sure that they can live a happy and successful life, right? So the question here is, what is your own personal experience with aggressive and problem behavior, right? So maybe you were brought up with hitting and slapping occurred from family members. When the child does it, it brings up passive negative memories, right? It's this idea also that maybe that this is something that should be acceptable, right? That there is this idea that, oh, this child is just going to be doing it for the sake of getting their wiggles out or whatever it may be. And I'm here to tell you that's not the case. A lot of the times, there are individuals online that will say, oh, yeah, if they're hitting or stuff, you should just let them, because of the fact that that allows them to communicate what they're feeling, and that should be totally okay. And again, I'm here to tell you that that is not the case here, right? A child is able to act appropriately and does not need to act that way in order to get a point across. Maybe you had an experience where you were physically abused or assaulted growing up, or maybe you were even yelled at growing up in your home, or yelling and screams were a staple in your household. Again, we're here to tell you that we can help that child not go down that ladder, right? Not go down that road of thinking that aggression is okay. Things that we hear a lot of the times are that that my daughter keeps running away, that he's getting stronger, his heading is starting to scare me, and I don't know what to do. That I have diapers that are in the adult sizes, that he's a lifetime member of the Picky Eater Club, that that's not going to be possible. You're never going to get him to eat anything, right? That they're nonverbal, and I just want to know what he wants, right? All of these things are things that we have heard before. Do you think that they are capable of changing? Do you think that you're capable of helping them reduce these behaviors, right? These are good questions for you to have. And does your kid get a free pass to behave however they want because they have autism? Again, as I said, as a person with autism myself, I'm here to tell you that a child should never be given that ability to act however they want just for the sake of doing things their way. I have some families as well that say, well, my child doesn't go to school anymore. He's 12 and I can't make him because he doesn't want to go anymore. I can't put him in the car because he's just too angry, or he's just too heavy, or he's just too much stronger than me. And so they don't go to school. And that teaches them that it's appropriate. So again, we're here to tell you that we can help with that, right? The brain's job is not to make us happy. The brain's job is to help keep us safe. They're supposed to look out for these negatives, and it's supposed to tell us how to protect ourselves, right? And so sometimes this may occur where we start to say, oh, well, we don't need to talk about it because of the fact that we're just going to leave it alone and it's going to be somebody else's problem down the road. And that's not the case here, right? We need to make sure that we are doing things that are able to better support ourselves, right? We see the same kind of mentality when we're saying to ourselves, okay, we're going to lose some weight. We're going to make more money. We're going to get a new job. We're going to quit smoking. We have this belief in ourselves that we're able to accomplish these things. And so we need to have the same kind of mentality for the children we're serving, right? We're not going to just say, oh, well, we're just going to let this, kick the can down the road kind of thing. We're going to tell these kids that we are able to help you better demonstrate your wants and needs more effectively, right? And we're able to do this through potty training, through communication, through reducing aggressive and problem behavior as well. So here is Juliana as well and her brother. And again, just as cute as can be. You have this brain now that needs to understand that they are here also to protect you, and that you're able to handle so many more tough things that you may have thought would not be able, that you may be able to accomplish, right? So you've been defaulting to these kind of ideas that you're not able to take care of it, right? But again, I'm here to tell you that you are. We need to think these new thoughts in order to get new results. We need to think about setting ourselves and our child for success, right? Not just saying, oh, okay, well, you're aggressive now, so I'm just going to leave the room. That's never going to be a good answer because of the fact that this child is going to need some kind of level of support system from you and to know what is okay and what's not okay. These are all really cute pictures, and I just absolutely love them, right? All thoughts are optional. You can decide what you want to think about, right? If you want to think that your child isn't capable of anything, that's your decision, right? If you want to think about your child is capable of everything, and they're able to choose how to manage their emotions, how to choose how to manage their actions, and you want to see results for your child, then that's when we can start getting to talk, right? That's when we are able to look at our children and say, no, you are able to accomplish anything you set your mind to. So this formula that we have here, right, is that we focus on the facts, we focus on your thoughts, we focus on your emotions, and then we focus on the actions all together here. We're able to then accomplish it through results, right? Knowing that your thinking is creating and that you're able to get your emotions to better understand your child's abilities, right? Better understand that these actions that they are presenting for themselves are not going to be to any issue for themselves, and to continue to see that kind of progress, right? Continue to see what your child is able to accomplish. So again, think of it as a TEA line, a T line, right? Thought, emotion, and actions. This default T line is understanding that there is a circumstance and a fact here, that your child is headbutting. Okay. The thought is, I don't know what to do. She's going to hurt herself. And then our emotion then goes into this defeated, hopeless behavior. And what we want to do instead is to try and change this, right? Change this action of not even trying to intervene and just being like, yeah, she does that sometimes, and changing it to, no, we need to figure out a different solution to this, and not just being able to say, hey, this is what happened to my life now, I guess this is my new normal, right? She's just never going to stop headbutting. And these nevers and none of the time, those kind of things, these are things that we want to avoid because we want to make sure that we can do everything for the child. So let's look at this intentional T line, right? We say that my child is headbutting. We see it's the same, but our thought and our emotion and actions and results are all going to be different, right? We're going to reduce and minimize this behavior. How? By having our thoughts say that my child must learn to express themselves in an appropriate way, that I'm going to feel empowered, and that I'm going to be a mom that is able to get things done, that I'm going to be a person that is able to accomplish these kind of skills that I know my child is able to accomplish. And finally, I'm going to observe that behavior divert, and create some kind of action plan that lets the child understand what is expected of them and what is going to get my full-on attention. So that was step one, right? And we can keep going with step two is to inspect and observe the behavior. I want you all to look at things as an antecedent and a consequence, okay? So antecedent means what happened right before the behavior, and consequence meaning what happened right after the behavior. It doesn't mean you put them in the corner or anything like that. It just means we're looking at what happened again and before and after that behavior's happened, right? So we have a number one rule here. We always want to rule out medical issues first. Before we say anything is a behavior, we want to make sure that there isn't a reason medically that something is happening, right? So taking them to the doctor, making sure that that's taken care of, and making sure that we're good to go. But sometimes a mom will tell us, well, I already took him to the doctor and we ruled out any medical problems about 3 months ago, right? And that's when a behavior analyst can step in. And that's when we can start to say, well, you can't do this, especially with nonverbal kids, right? We want to make sure that a physician has specifically said that the child is healthy and that there is no medical reason for a child acting in a certain way, right? This needs to be assessed by a doctor, and once that happens, then we can move on. Some examples that may cause behaviors that we're not super happy about could be toothache, stomachache, gastrointestinal issues, things like that that can cause those kind of concerns. We really want to define what that child is doing, right? So when we say tantrum, what does it look like? How do we get everyone on the same page in order to understand what is that expectation here, right? Is a tantrum when I'm like, ah, or is the tantrum going to be like, wow, wow, like that kind of thing in order to have that understood? So that way we can all be on the same side here, right? If I say, oh, well, your child's just acting really bad in class, right? What does that mean? That's so subjective. What if what is bad to you is not the same to me, right? If you're like, my child is just always so angry, and I see your child and they're just like, oh, like that's not angry to me. That's a child just presenting themselves in a way that is frustrated, right? And so we have to keep that in mind. We have to get on the same page. We have to be objective in this, and we have to have an observable definition here that allows us to know what exactly we're looking for when we say tantrum, that allows us to know what exactly are we trying to see when we say aggression. So we know we need to understand when and what is going to be going on, right? I talked about what happened before and whatever happened after. Data is the best option for you to better determine why your child is doing things that they're doing, right? If we say, oh, well, my child always hits people, right? Is that necessarily true? Or can we start to count how many times in a day is that child starting to get aggressive? And if we're able to then say, oh, well, maybe, I counted at the end of the day and he hit somebody about 2 times, in your mind, sometimes it starts to understand that it's an issue there where, oh, what I thought was true is not true, right? What I thought was the case that they always hit was actually not true. And instead, what happened is they hit a couple of times, but it is intense enough where we get concerned, right? So we have a frequency, we have our latency. And then latency here is how long does it take for a behavior to occur. Our tally frequency here is the number of times that a behavior occurs. Our duration is how long it lasts. And the intensity is a very subjective scale, right? But it's just how intense a behavior may be. And that's when we get the antecedent data, the ABC data, like I was talking about earlier. We have our antecedents, we have our consequences, and B for behavior. So an example of this is going to be during free play. When his brother is playing with the toy train, he engages in spitting. Immediately after he spits, his father comes into the room and yells at him. Here we can understand why is a child doing what they're doing. Hypothesis, right? Is to understand that if we have the antecedent, the behavior, and the consequence, we can then determine, oh, for instance, this looks like he is spitting on him as a way of gaining a tangible, as a way of determining that I want this toy, and this is the only way that I can communicate these kind of wants and needs here. So after you roll out medical, we understand that you can see a behavior, anything at all, happens for 4 reasons. Anything observable, right? So anything that you can see with your own eyes. Any behavior can occur for escape. So maybe he doesn't want to do his homework. Maybe he wants to get out of working with a therapist. Could be for attention. They want either negative or positive attention, right? They want social praise, or it could also be reprimands. Sometimes the kid does not care. They want either negative or positive. Could be for a tangible. They want an item, like for the train earlier. Or it could be a sensory, where it feels good to them, right? where it feels good to hand flap, where it feels good to repeat words over and over. And so they continue to do that because they want some kind of good sensation. So what causes these problem behaviors is simply these functions behavior, right? Once we determine the cause, then we can start developing some kind of treatment that can better support this child, right? Through this functional analysis of combining these different reactions and understanding, hey, this is what needs to be accomplished in order to resolve this, right? So if we have attention, the best idea then is to maybe not make eye contact, maybe not reprimand, because the reprimands that we are giving are unintentionally providing this child with the ability to think, oh, this is exactly how I get attention. Okay, I'm going to keep doing this then, right? Maybe telling this child when they start hitting that they don't have to do their homework, that they need to go to their room because they're grounded because they hit you, was exactly what they wanted because it got them out of doing their work, right? Maybe the sensory is giving them some kind of pillow instead of giving them their head because it lets them feel the same sensation they were feeling when they started hitting themselves. The remaining 20% possibly could be a combination of these, right? Sometimes you get a child that is both attention and escape, that they are wanting your attention, but they also don't want to do the work. So they're going to do everything they possibly can in order to get out of it and also get you to yell at them because they like your attention, right? So it's important to understand that this is what we need to do. So how are the reinforcements, right? Reinforcements are not bribes, right? And I get that a lot of the times. A bribe is when you give a child an item after a behavior happens. A reinforcer Sorry about that, you guys. Let me keep going. I don't know why. That was really weird. We can sim a shout. Yeah, no, but perfect. I appreciate you guys. Yeah, I don't know. All right, so let me go ahead and share my screen. Jen, if you can give me access again. Perfect. Thanks so much. Yeah, that was so weird. Appreciate you guys handling that though. All right, so let me share my screen again. So we get into the idea that reinforcement is used when your child is able to accomplish a certain task for you, right? Let me see. Yeah, so it's for, and there's a number of reasons why we may do it. We may do it for a positive reinforcement in order to have that child start to understand that what they're doing is appropriate, that what they're doing is really going to give you the exact method that you're wanting to do, right? So instead of having a child understand, hey, I am going to act this way and I'm going to hit and kick for attention, we start praising this child for saying, hey, good job. I like that you're walking next to me. I like that you're using your hands quietly. All of these things allow a child to start to understand that it is far more appropriate to stay with a mother or a father or do the things they're wanting me to do rather than being inconvenienced and not doing the things that they wanted me to do. So here we have an example of an ABC sheet here. I don't mind this, right? As an example, this is a good one because it's a checkoff, but I also like it being open-ended. So I have usually a 3-box method where it's just antecedent, empty box, behavior, empty box, consequence, empty box. And then I have the hypothesized functions. I do have those 4 there so you can better understand it. But having this open-ended allows you to better understand your child specifically and not having to be stuck in certain things that they're doing, right? So if anybody wants to screenshot that, I'll just give them a few seconds here to better understand that. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Very cool. And if I need to go back, I definitely can at a later time. Another example here is what I was talking about earlier with the blank spaces, right? We have the antecedent, we have the behavior, and you can put a date and time, which is totally fine, right? And what happens is the more boxes that you fill in, the more times you do this, the more you're going to understand that, oh, this is a trend. My child is always doing this during these times, so now I know exactly how to handle this, right? So step 3 here is then finally to disarm and to prevent this. It is the prevention that we want to focus on here, right? How do we diffuse this when we occur? So for the most part, we want to do antecedent interventions. We want things that are going to happen before this behavior happens, so that way we don't even see the behavior to begin with. However, sometimes we're going to see the behavior, and it's important for us to understand what kind of methods can we do in order to de-escalate if a child is starting to demonstrate some kind of inappropriate behavior, right? We want to use that kind of prior knowledge to determine next steps here. And we want to understand what needs to be done in order to get that way, right? So we want to look and see why a behavior is happening and then determine ways in order to prevent it in the future, right? Focus heavily on pairing and manding. For those that may not know what that is, pairing is when you form some kind of relationship with the child, right? So, and that doesn't necessarily mean as a mother or father you don't. That's not what that's saying. It just means that you're getting to play with your child more. It's getting them interacting with you more, because the more you interact with the child, the more this child is going to start to see you as somebody that they want to listen to instead of not listen to, right? So if I just went up to somebody, a friend, and I was like, hey, I need to see your phone, they would likely not let me see the phone. But because I have paired with a friend and then I say, hey, let me see your phone, they're more likely to let me see their phone because they know me and they're able to trust me, right? Manding, you can think of that as a request. It's allowing this child to provide their wants and needs in order to tell you what exactly they're wanting to accomplish. So stack the wins in the child's favor, right? Winning through positive reinforcement. So we're gonna be like, good job. I love that you're next to me. I love that you're sitting next to me. I love that you're clapping. I love that you're quiet hands. I love that you're walking next to me. We want to make sure that we're doing those kind of methods and those kind of terms and vocabulary about 3 times as much as the negative attention, right? We don't want to ignore our child forever, but we want to make sure that their day is filled with a lot of reinforcement, right? Reinforcing that appropriate behavior by rewarding them, and then understanding that we're going to refuse to give in to this problem behavior by giving the child what he wants. If the child is throwing a tantrum because they're wanting a toy, we don't just give them the toy because they're throwing the tantrum. We're then going to have them understand that we're going to wait until they're calm. We're going to praise their calm behavior. And then when they're calm, they can tell us what they want. But they need to use it appropriately, right? And have them understand that this is the only way that they're going to get an item. They don't just get it for the sake of doing whatever it is that they want in order to get it, right? Using visual supports can be a really good idea as well, whether that be a first thin board or if it's like some kind of picture of the items that they're wanting. Anything like that would be a good thing to use, right? So starting with small achievable goals is going to be very significant, and that's going to help encourage that success. Step 4 is going to be then to deactivate this explosive and problem behavior here, right? So strategies to reduce the problem behavior come through functional communication training, come through non-contingent reinforcement, come through differential reinforcement of other behavior, differential reinforcement incompatible behavior, and finally, differential reinforcement alternative behavior. Those are a lot of words that typically people do not use on a day-to-day basis. So I'll go through each of those. Let me make sure it's not going to go, oh, it's going to go through on its own. That's perfect. So functional communication training first, right? This is the ability of having a child learn how to use their words appropriately in order to accomplish the same thing they would have done with their behaviors. And there are a lot of studies out there that show that the more the child uses their own language, then the more that behavior is starting to go down, right? Because it is far more difficult to get aggressive or to flip a table than it is to tell somebody, no, I don't want to do this. And to see that they're going to respond to you appropriately by communicating appropriately, then the child starts to be like, oh, this is so much easier. I really don't want to do it the other ways I was doing, right? And functional communication can come from picture cards, sign language, using a device, using their words. All of this is going to be acceptable, right? Or even if things start to get hard, they can maybe tell you that they want to break, that maybe they want to play instead, that maybe they're all done. All of these things are going to be acceptable because that lets the child understand what is the reason they need to give you in order to maybe get out of something, right? So differential reinforcement of other behavior, right, is the idea that I'm going to reinforce every other behavior here except for the one that I am wanting to decrease, right? So if you have a child that is throwing chairs and you're not wanting him to do that anymore, but he has other smaller behaviors, maybe crying or eloping or things like that, right? You're going to ignore or work to decrease the big problem behavior that you no longer want to see, right? And then still allow the others to occur at their normal rate. So an example of this, excuse me, an example of this is going to be where you put your child on a timer, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and if they can go X amount of time without throwing a chair, then they get a goldfish. And that starts to teach them that, oh, if I want this specific item that I love, then I need to make sure that I am not demonstrating this specific behavior. My other ones are fine, but this one specifically, I need to not do. And all of these paragraphs perfectly fine. You're more than welcome to. Just again, as a BCBA, I'm well versed in this, so it's just easier for me to provide a simpler definition than to provide that. So you may see that from time to time. Differential reinforcement of alternative behavior is simply catching your child to being good, right? It's having your child know what is expected of them. It's praising them essentially. When they're walking with you, when they're doing things by your side, good job. I love that you're doing that. I do it with my wife and she does it to me all of the time. Hey, I really appreciate that you watch the kids for me while I was working. That really meant a lot to me. So now in my mind, I know I should do that more often because my wife really likes when I do that, right? It's understanding that there are expectations and that we can get praise by doing simple things that we may not have thought we could be getting before. Again, it's catching them being good. Differential reinforcement of incompatible behavior simply means that we're going to reinforce the things that cannot happen at the same time as the inappropriate behavior, right? If a child is leaving their seat and you want to praise them for sitting down in their chair, that's differential reinforcement of incompatible behavior because you can't leave your seat and sit down at the same time. And therefore, we're reinforcing what we want to see and ignoring what we don't want to see. Non-contingent reinforcement is basically reinforcing at certain times, possibly, that allow them to understand and satiate the behavior that you don't want to see, right? So if I give a child a cookie every 30 seconds, regardless of whether or not this behavior is happening, the child starts to get satiated and no longer wants to present this behavior anymore, right? An example of this is I had a child that was spitting, and this child was spitting for the sake of vibration. He liked the vibration in his mouth. It was a sensory-oriented type of thing, right? So I gave him a vibrating chewy, something to chew on, and I gave it to him every 5 minutes. And he learned that I would rather have this vibrating chewy than to spit because it gave me the same sensation and it satiated my need to spit in the first place, and therefore he stopped doing it after a while as well. So functionally equivalent behaviors, replacement behaviors are really just going to be finding a behavior that is going to give the same sensation as another behavior, right? So maybe instead of the child aggressing for attention, maybe you teach them to tap your shoulder so that way it can provide the same kind of function, right? Or maybe, again, this child, instead of squeezing you, squeezes a stress ball, and now it's the same sensation. All of this simply is just being able to replace the behaviors that we are not wanting to see. So treating aggression, honestly, is going to be like a package deal here, right? We need to make sure that we understand that there is no one solution to this problem, that aggression is needing to be treated as a package of many interventions here, right? It's going to be different things that are going to be put in motion to decrease this behavior. It's not simply, hey, don't aggress, stop hitting. You know, nobody likes when you hit. That's not going to really get you anywhere, and it's definitely not going to get the child anywhere. It's important to increase reinforcement. It's important to modify these antecedent consequences, to decrease demands maybe. Maybe the amount of demands that you're giving this child is just too much, and this child is not wanting to accomplish all of these things. Decreasing the demands and then increasing them later could very easily save you a big headache that you otherwise were going to have to deal with. You could possibly do extinction, although I recommend doing that with the support of a BCBA, where you're basically going to withhold reinforcement or ignore this child doing the behavior. But understand that if you do that, behaviors get worse before they get better. So a child that is aggressing may then say, well, aggression doesn't work. Let me go ahead and hit sister. Let me go ahead and hit myself. Maybe that will get me what I'm wanting. And it's very hard sometimes for a parent to deal with that. And if we're starting to see that, then we start to determine the next steps here of like, okay, we need to try something else so that way we keep the child safe. Again, these functionally equivalent replacement behaviors are also a possibility. But bottom line, what is the most significant here is data collection and monitoring data, right? You're going to see trend lines throughout the entire behavior. You're going to see it increase, decrease, become neutral, whatever it may be. But it's determining it. That's going to help you understand, is your intervention working? Are we able to see a significant change in your child's behavior? But if the data starts to increase or become, there's really no change, it's time to change what we're doing. It's time to determine what are the next steps here in order to resolve this. So that even the best PCBAs are going to have to analyze data. I love data, and it allows me to understand what I'm doing is working, right? I don't go into this blind and I don't make up things. I figure out what is going to be the best option here. I look at my data the next couple of days and say, okay, this worked or this didn't work. And it allows me to understand next steps here. Keep in mind, Rome wasn't built in a day. I have some parents that are telling me, well, you know, he's still doing this behavior. It's like, oh, okay, well, how long has it been since you put in the intervention? Well, it's been 2 days. And it's like, that's not what this is. It takes some time for you to determine if the strategy you're using is working, right? So one thing that Michelle says as well is that I find it helpful to view these strategies more like laying bricks for a building than shooting silver bullets. It's not a magical be-all, end-all type thing. It's really, okay, we're here. All right, what's the next step? What's the next step? What are we trying to accomplish here in order to get these things to be resolved here, right? So why are you here today? We want to be able to stop hitting themselves. We want them to be able to stop biting others, to stop pinching others. We want to make sure that we don't have to worry about our child's safety. We went over this, right? The headbutting, the reinsurance, all of these reasons are why we're here and why I've been able to talk to each of you today, right? But understand that although this is outdated right now, that the CDC recently came out and said that there is a 1 in 36 children have autism, have some kind of diagnosis, right? If the system starts to become overwhelmed, it will cap your ability to get services, and that is true. As somebody that currently that has a wait list, we have a 1-year wait list because we need to make sure that we keep up quality. It's causing a lot of children to not get the services they're needing, right? So premiums will not be able to cover it all. It's possible, but who knows, right? It's based on your insurance. And the system is then going to start getting overwhelmed, and those numbers are going to get larger. The time to help your child is going to be now. Because if you start looking for ABA elsewhere, you may not find it. And you may find that either A, your small town does not have it, or B, you'll see that it maybe is a 3, 6, 9, 12-month wait list that you're going to have to be on until they decide to see you. So why join us in the first place, right? We have personalized strategies for each of you. We have a 100% potty training success rate, and we try to reconnect you with your child. We get to those grassroots levels of why your child has these problem behaviors, and we get you back on track. We understand that only failure here is to be quitting your child in the first place. We understand that you no longer will have to worry about autism every day, and you'll get your independence back. So what you get here is that you get potty training support, communication support, stopping these problem behaviors we've been talking about this evening, the social skills aspect, and we work on picky eating as well. So if your child has problems with eating different foods, we work on that. We work on the mindset training, and we stop eloping, right? We want to make sure that we build out our sessions each and every month. Jen is going to be posting a link in the chat here that allows you to consider us and to be able to look into that kind of program, right? So you get this lifetime access. You get 3 months of a coaching program. You get 3 to 4 weekly life group meetings, much like this, but a lot more individualized because it's based on Q&A, as you're about to see. And you get support from Michelle, the owner, the autism mom. She does classes. You get help from myself, Melissa, Stacy, Julie. We all are able to support you with different ABA strategies here. We also have a mindset coaches. We have Risa and Holly as well that provide the support that you're looking for in order to change that negativity into more positivity. In addition, we have monthly specialist calls from registered dietitians, as well as speech language pathologists and feeding specialists, right? Anyone that is able to support. We have occupational therapists as well. All of these individuals here are here to help answer as many questions as you have to better support your growth. We also have a private Facebook community, and you're welcome to email any of us for questions and support because we want to see you succeed. So joining our Facebook group is possible if you join us tonight, right? being able to have that support system. And finally, again, we have an action back guarantee. If you're not happy in 90 days or you don't get the result, you can either A, stay in the program until you do, or you can get your money back. All of these things are going to be welcome in order to better support you. So tonight, right, as a bonus, if you sign up, you're able to get one private session with me as well as Risa. Both of these are $1,000 value here. And we want to make sure that you're able to get any and all questions you have supported for you. You also, as a bonus by signing up tonight, you get 5 months of the program instead of 3. And so that allows you to get even more sessions. And altogether, that's about 70 plus calls to change your life today. So keep in mind, 2 bonuses. Now we get a third. It's $500 off the program as well. So in order to start, by all means, Jen will be posting the link in the chat. You can also email Michelle at michelle@michellebrogers.com for available spots and making sure that anything can work for you. Keep in mind, though, we ask for you to join by midnight tonight in order to get those bonuses, right? We don't want you waking up tomorrow and getting only 3 months when tonight you could have got 5. You could have got a session with myself to get all of your questions answered in a Q&A format. Could have got a mindset coaching call as well as getting the $500 off, right? So book that consultation call. Jen is posting the link now, so that way you can get the support. So the word here that we get concerns about, right, is this unicorn syndrome. Is that Juliana possibly is a different child, that Armando is a different child, that your child has severe autism, and that this may not work for you, right? That your child's broken. And as we've learned today, that that's not the case. Unicorn syndrome is a self-preservation state where if we stay in one area, nothing bad could possibly happen. And what we're here to tell you is that doing nothing is the bad thing that could happen. We want to make sure that we can support you as much as possible, right? So have this understanding that through support from us, we are able to resolve your issues, that we want you to join us tonight, right? Again, all of these bonuses in tonight, Jen posted the link. You can email as well, screenshot it, whatever you would like to do. Book a consultation call. Just something for you to see what we're about, just so we're able to help you out as well, right? So book that call, go ahead and go to Michelle, and we're happy to do it. With that, we'll also post a little video for you to see what some of our parents are also.
After it came into my life at the right time because it really with military stuff, I had never moved to a Christian age. I would say our biggest struggles were I just didn't feel like we had exposure to the services that I was wanting for him. We didn't have any local ABA. He would talk with us, but not really with other people. And I would think of something like this, my son's probably, since he was diagnosed, just before he turned 3, and we kind of felt like we were left out on the own in the pool.
So now, I love everything. Your motivation, how you break things down, how you make it seem easy. And not just seem easy, but you give the tools and the steps, making it easy, breaking it down.
A, the steps I needed to take, and like made it less abstract than some other people have made it for me. I mean, it was everything. When you talk to your insurance, you ask them this, you speak to this type of person, and it just started taking that load off where I could see the accomplishments, and I could see through the fog. And
so I kind of just wanted to ask you, if someone just found out that their child was diagnosed with autism, how important is it for them to have someone supporting them through this process? For example, like I'm a parent of a child who's nonverbal, who's down in his second grade class, someone I have experience to advise, when you have to advise somebody needs what actions are available for the child, assisting in finding the right treatment. Is that something that kind of great? Absolutely. Because I just not even she had trouble with just the diagnosis, so she didn't know where to start. We kept doing this. And I'm not stressed. That doesn't it's like I didn't know like child so we were not potty trained, we were not talking much, we were not he wasn't able to go get something, do any of those things. And now he will he's fully potty trained. We go everywhere to sit on our knees, we don't have to worry about that. He is speaking way more. He's gained so much independence, his ability to do things. And I can tell him, is he going to really get your shoes and get your socks, or and just seeing that he understands what they're saying, it's amazing. His amazing, he's happy with himself. When I close with friends, I would say I never got off the pump, but I'm able to train traits. I don't formulate them like ready and to really go for it. And I would not have thought he could do it. And he's now potty trained, doing it on his own, taking himself. And it went so much better than I ever could have imagined. Would you recommend our program to anyone, to dads that are going through this right now? Absolutely. Hands down of everything we've done, and this has been the best thing. This was the most support and all the way around. Any day. I'm gonna bring the chance to do this. I definitely recommend it. It's made all the difference. Having so much support from the different parents. It wasn't one little thing, but like a full spectrum. How I can improve myself so I can improve outcomes for whoever's out there that's confused, thinking they're slow help, and they are all by themselves, they're all by themselves. Michelle. Absolutely, hands down. That's only
It's always my favorite because I've been here enough now where I know like a lot of those parents, which is super cool. But yeah, that was just a little bit of information from our parents. Let's see. Keep going. All right, yay, Q&A time. This is my favorite time. Very cool. Let me stop the share. So Jen's gonna be posting that link for you guys. Thanks so much for being here. With that being said, yeah, what can I do for you guys? Feel free, everyone that is interested, raise your hand. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. So Teji says, how do you stop eloping when we take child out? That's very good. So it's going to determine why your child is doing what they're doing in the first place, right? So it's possible that it's for attention or escape and all of that. Teji, if you want to go into more detail about that situation, you're more than welcome to as well. Yeah. Oh, goodness. I'm sorry, you guys. I didn't realize they had some network issues. There's no problem when I watch them. It may have something to do with them being short. Yeah, possible. Thanks so much, Melody. But yeah, if anyone has questions regarding, why a child is doing what they're doing, how I can help as a BCBA, that's what I'm here for. Feel free to raise your hand or anything, and I can allow you guys to talk as well. And then, Jim, we may have questions as well, and that may be helpful. Let's say we go shopping. He just likes to run away and wants me to chase. Oh, very good. Okay, so like that, for instance, may sound like it's for attention. And in which case, we need to have that child understand that there is something more appropriate, for that child to be able to do, right? So it could be first stay with dad or stay with mom, and then you get XYZ thing, right? Skittle, toy, whatever it may be. And have the child start to understand that there is a more appropriate way of communicating their wants and needs. If they want to go somewhere, that's totally fine, but they need to be able to tell you, hey, I want to go do X or I want to go do Y, and using their words in order to get more effective, right? And that would be a little bit more helpful. So I hope that helps, Teshi. Jay LaFrance, I believe it would be available if you sign up, but Jen would be able to answer that more. Yeah, Yes, we'll send. Okay, very good. We're still along with replay email to you, Rich. Fantastic. Alma says, what if they elope because they remember where we are and want to run off and get there fast, right? So they want to run at the place, right? So then it's going to be significant for you to understand that this child is going to do this. And now your decision is, okay, well, how do I handle this, right? And the way we handle this is by going over those interventions we talked about, going over what are different ways that we can manage this. Maybe we hold the child's hand before we get to the store. Even though he may know where he's at, we hold on to it, right? Maybe we get him to use his words to say that I want to get there faster. And you're like, okay, yeah, let's run there. Let's, walk there, whatever it is, to get them to understand something more appropriately than just running off. Does that make sense, Alma? I hope that's helpful. Yes. So with that being said, we can keep on going. I know I had more questions, which is a bummer because when my thing canceled, it closed them all out. So I'm sorry, you guys, if you put some Q&As. Jen, unless you know it and you can tell me what they are and I can answer them. But otherwise, Phil, please type them out and I can do that. Teji says, what if the child is nonverbal? How do we get them to communicate? Yeah, that's really good. So Teji, is he like 5, 7, 15? Where is he at? And I'll give you a little bit to type it out. No worries. Okay, I'll keep going, Teji. But I'm sorry. Oh, I said, how old is he? Is he 7, 5? How old is he? Yeah, and we can see if you can respond to it. 4.5. Very good. Okay, so 4.5. So there's different ways that we can do this, right? We can do it through sign language, where we get him to understand help or more or different things like that. Could be very supportive of him. And you may need to initially start off with teaching him the sign language yourself by taking his hands and doing it for him, right? So getting him to understand, hey, what do you need? My turn. Yeah, that's telling me my turn. Here's the toy. And getting him to have some kind of language base, right? We may not necessarily have talking yet, but we do have communication through sign language, and that allows him to be able to tell you his wants and needs instead of getting angry and not telling you anything at all, right? The goal here is to get him to understand what is that expectation of communication, and it's no longer behavior, but instead it's going to be sign language, for instance, right? To be able to get the things he wants. So if he wants a little toy and you show it to him and he's like grabbing for it, then you go into it and you say, hey, you can tell me what you want. My turn. Good job. Here's the toy. And then he starts to realize that that's going to be far more acceptable. So hope that makes sense. I think that would be a good starting point for you. So Sandra Gomez Gill says, what I can do if my kid who is 7 just breaks down for simple things like hear his sister, she is 5 homing. I think coming, 5 coming. Either way. So if they break down, you have to understand, why is this child breaking down, right? What is the purpose behind that breakdown? Are they doing it because of the fact that, they want attention? Are they doing it because it feels good? What is the purpose here, right? And we won't know that unless you start looking at the before and after of the behavior. So if they're breaking down because they hear their sister, maybe we start teaching them to use their words. Again, I'm basing this just off of things you guys tell me, right? So I don't know if they're verbal or whatever. Using words or sign language, where they're able to say, hey, it's too loud, or I need a break, or all done, things like that will allow them to use their words more appropriately and getting them to do it instead of just getting upset that they're hearing a loud noise. So I hope that helps. Melody Chicoine says, my 4.5-year-old grandson, diagnosed at 26 months, is having more behavior since new brother has arrived. He has started throwing things up in the air, will be playing with his toys or even a tablet, and then suddenly starts to throw things up in the air. Took the tablet away, just wanting to keep everyone safe. Absolutely. So sometimes when that occurs, right, it's possible that it's a sensory thing. And so it's then teaching him that there are more appropriate things to play with rather than the toys or the tablet or whatever. So if he starts to throw the tablet, rather than telling him, no, don't do that, he doesn't really understand that. But what would be more significant then is to give him a ball, take away the item he has, give him a ball and see if he can throw it, because that is going to be more appropriate. And as he throws the ball, praise him for it and get him to provide that kind of joy through the praise and get him to understand that this is acceptable to throw, but the other things are not acceptable because he's not getting praise for it. So I hope that makes sense. We bought cloth leaves to help him throw those up. Love doing that outside. So we got, yeah, that's absolutely right. Right. I would just really focus more on things that are going to be appropriate inside. If you're fine with doing that inside, that's perfectly fine. But again, it really depends on that child, as well as the parent perspective of what they're happy with and what they're not happy with. So that's a good thing for you guys to have done. Really good job. Yeah, what else you guys got? It's good. You guys are a little bit quiet though. I don't know if people don't want to use their mics tonight, but you're more than welcome to as well. Just got to raise your hand and I got to allow you to talk. Any other questions? Teji says, if I want to teach him something like alphabets, he runs away, so it is hard to get him to sit and learn. Yeah, that's going to be really difficult, right? So what you want to try and do is position him in a way that the running away isn't really possible, but also coupling it with some kind of reinforcement, right? If you sit down for 1 minute, you get tablet for 2 minutes or something, whatever you want to make it, right? But you can also position it. So you'll see that I have a wall behind me, a wall here, and a wall over there. So, and obviously this desk in front of me. So if I put a child here, I can put the child in my seat right here and he can't go anywhere. And then I sit next to him and now he is basically blocked in, but not restrained by any means, just blocked in where he is not going to be able to move and is going to stay in this area. So I hope that helps. Anyone else have a question? I see an anonymous attendee. This is a bit hard for me. It says, can you help a child that's 15 years old, nonverbal, with some behavioral concerns like aggression? Yes, is my answer. But I need a lot more detail than that in order to answer it, just because of the fact that that really doesn't give me a whole lot to go off of. So if somebody wants to give more, you're more than welcome to, but that's where we are with that. Yeah, anything else? Oh, I'm sorry, I had a call come in. I didn't hear the answer to how to get him to stop screaming. Oh, you got to use his words. Yeah, to help you, Alma. So like, just get him to use sign language or vocal protest or things like that. I think this is also recorded and this is going to be sent to you, so you can fast forward and do that as well. Marie Albayard says, my son is 9 years old, nonverbal, but he has some words and he likes to elope, hitting himself all the time and his siblings sometimes. How to stop that behavior? So if a child has some words and he likes to elope, hitting himself all the time and his siblings, again, it's really going to depend on why he's doing it in the first place, right? Determining, is it attention, escape, tangible, or sensory? That's going to be the first step in order for you to determine what to do next. And if you can determine why your child's doing that, then we can start talking about, okay, hey, what are the interventions we can do, right? Taji says, how to reduce hyperactivity and a lot of non-functional jumping. You can just give him more of a break and get him to say that he needs a break or that he wants to go play or go outside, and getting him to have certain sensory breaks in order to make sure that he gets support in that way. Sarah says, any help with toilet training for a child that's scared of the toilet? Ooh, yeah, that's always really crazy. So I've done it where I teach them, or I have them pick a toilet seat that they want to sit on. I get them to understand that there's reinforcement if they do sit on the toilet. Maybe they get bubbles if they sit on the toilet. Maybe they get some kind of Skittle if they sit on the toilet, things like that. Those all can be very helpful. And Sandra says, my kid can speak well, and he is just correcting everybody, for example. He said, we don't say people, we say persons. And he is just breakdown if we said the wrong word or his sister singing too quiet, even that he is so mad. Yeah, that's very interesting. Sandra, if you want to go into more detail, I'm more than happy to hear from you. I'm going to need a little bit more detail than that if you want an answer. But that is really cute that he says, we don't say people, we say persons. That's pretty cute. Okay, Jen, I'm not seeing any hands. If you want to do the raffle, I guess we can get going. Jen here? I think she is. Yeah, Jen is here. Okay. I hope you guys found this really helpful. I know Jen's getting the raffle ready. And then we can see who it is. Please be sure to sign up. Jen's going to be posting that link for y'all in order to sign up and get more advice like this. Oh, Jen, are you there?
I'm sorry.
Oh, I said I'm ready for the raffle. It doesn't seem like a lot of people have questions tonight. Ah, Brandy. That's funny. I think she's also a part of it. Very, very cool. All right. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining. And Brandy, congratulations. I will